His injustice will not be sustained. The pursuit for justice petition by a Nigerian citizen and a constituent of Kogi Central under the name Suberu Azamare Yakubu. And the petition is against the President of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, for sexual harassment, abuses of office, and malicious obstruction of legislative functions of distinguished Senator Natasha Akpabio. So with your kind permission, may I please lay this petition? Because as you know, yesterday...
Is there any legal impediment?
On the subject matter, none, sir. None, sir.
Well, please proceed to lay the petition. Since you said there is no legal impediment.
There is none, sir. Thank you.
Don't worry. Distinguished colleagues, Senator Natasha Akpabio has a petition from our constituents, and she has also further confirmed before all senators that the matter in issue is not in any court of law. I have no reason not to take her word for it. So accordingly, the petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions to revert to the Senate in 4 weeks. Any further petition? Distinguished colleagues, Federal College of Nursing and Midwifery, Okeibo, Ondo State Establishment Bill 2025. First reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
My name is Sunday Steve. I'm from Kogi State. Mr. President, I want to confess my sin today. Which amendment? Because this is only month of Ramadan and at the same time of fasting. I'm one of those that put you in this problem, and I'm very sorry. When my sister came to the Senate, you were very reluctant, giving her a leadership position. I want to recall your word. You said she's a rookie, and there are people that came before her. Karini, why will I give her chairmanship position? You said you wouldn't do that. That your conscience will not allow you to do that. I went to some leaders here to put pressure on you. Then finally me and Senator Jube came to you that position that Senator Ohere left is for Kogi State.
It's not.
And that you must give it back to Kogi State. I even went to old meeting with the husband to strategize on how she will be given that chairmanship of local content. And finally, you succumb. I'm very sorry, sir. When we gave seats here, the seat I allocated to her was where Senator Orwell is sitting. It caused problem here. Senator said she was the last person that came. Why would she sit in front of them? You had to leave the leaders here and corrected me.
Speaking to the microphone.
You left the leadership after sitting one day. That Karimi, what are you doing? You want to divide this place because you want to favor your sister? Now that is not right. You have to reallocate the seat. If I want you still reallocated the seat, I still put out that edge. Why? Just to at least make my sister comfortable here. Senate President, I want to recall what happened that day before the leadership came in. She was very unhappy. She shouted my name to the high heavens, abused me, abuse my mother. For what? For simple
Abuse your mother?
Sir?
Was your mother around?
Mr. President, it's very important you listen to me, my colleagues. Mr. President, my colleagues, I'm a Christian, and I know in the book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 9, the Bible says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Because of that, I did a private chat to her. I want to read it. Yes, for this purpose. Madam, why not take a part of peace? Apologize to the leadership and your colleagues and move on. One that seems your enemy today can still be your friend tomorrow. It is not even healthy to keep warning always. My sincere advice. I hope you are not offended. I also followed up. If at all you need my support in carrying out my suggestion, you can have my back. The Spirit of God is leading me to do this. Please note that I have not discussed this with anyone. Do not interpret this to be anyone sending me to you. Your husband is our friend that will enjoy a valued relationship with, and I owe him a lot to have decided on this move. God guide you aright. He who fights and run away may live to fight another day. Those advising you to keep fighting, most of them doesn't know what it takes to win an election to the Senate. You know your labor, the pain, the struggle to get where you are. You need a good relationship with your colleagues to get the best for your people. A little here, a little there, bending to people's opinion. A good politician will do all possible to move on. Note that we have not spoken for 6 months. So I change my mind and do what I'm doing tonight. It's the grace of God in me. This text was sent on 24th February 2025. She received it because I know some people also told me a reaction to this test, even in Singapore, where they were. Mr. President, just like Moses told God, the Lord told Moses at the Mount of Horeb, we have stayed in this mountain for too long. We have stayed in this mountain for too long. Let us take Nigeria to the promised land. There are works to do for our people. We are not sent here because of all these intrigues and all this rubbish. We are sent here to work for our people. Let the decision of the committee, let it stand. Thank you.
My name is Senator Adefa Daunsi from Osun East. My home is just a bold talk as an elderly person. It seems as if we don't know where we are and who we are. Today we are number 3 in this country, which means all of us are that number 3. It's a serious upper layer of the whole nation, 109 out of 250 million people. So it carries what we call integrity. And for the past 2 weeks, the integrity has gone down just because of mere trivial matter of allocating seat and so on. We don't want to know what is undercurrent. God so kind those people push you to assist. They have confessed. And I have prayed for him that may God forgive him and Jubril for pushing you to have mercy on who. God even said, I will have mercy on who I will have mercy on. Not everybody. And it has even taught you a lesson. You have to look at the whole issue critically before you even act. Today, everywhere, including Berekete Radio, calling number 3 to come and explain things. Just a radio that we licensed. It's an insult. My role now is how to bring this integrity back. Once a damage is done, to bring it back, it's a long story. All of us must have to work hard. Within this period, we have to bring it back. As per the punishments attached, if I saw one of our leaders today sweating before Chame, I said, issue of what? There's no other paper that. My own is that, how do we bring the integrity back? Because we are in a serious situation of tax law, where we are going to make tax law to benefit common people. How do they believe us? Fighting on seat. No. Mr. Senate President and the leadership, we have to call a spade a spade. We have a Bible here, and this is the first one to be given to us, followed by Nigerian Constitution. And we have a lot of lawyers here. Please, let us do our work seriously. And after that, we can be friends. It has shown you now that there is no friend. You don't have any friend, though. Today, tomorrow, we don't know what will happen. The only friend to me is your wife and your children and God. We are praying for you, you will succeed, but let us face what we are here for. And that's my own. As regards the punishment, well, if it is the 6 months we are talking, if you are going to have mercy 3 months as prescribed by our minority leader, how well and good a punishment is a punishment. Today, we don't even know what will happen tomorrow. Maybe the whole Federal High Court in Lagos and Abuja will be bombarded again. Let us do our work. Thank you very much.
Those states. By discussion of this, let me first of all thank the chairman of the Ethics Committee for a job well done, because the narrative are well presented and they go through our rules one after the other. And I must thank you for an excellent job of remembrance of what happened, unfortunately, incident that happened in these chambers. As Senator Akpabio used to say, the Senate is an institution, and it just go above any person here. There's any president. The institution must be protected for the survival of democracy. And if we are senators, we cannot make rules for ourselves and obey those rules, then we have issues with the general public. When we make little laws, we should obey them if we want Nigerians to also obey the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so these notes, I believe and I strongly feel that we must obey our laws. We did say here, constitutionally, Section 172 of the Nigerian Constitution says, if any act of Parliament that contradicts the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the extent of its inconsistency is void and of no effect. Attorney General of Benue State and Attorney General of the Federation. Applying that to the Senate, distinguished Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we made our own books into rules. Any behavior, any praxis of any senator no matter how highly placed, that is inconsistent with the provision of the rules associately put in place by the Ethics Committee in this paper, Mr. President, that behavior of church senator is to the extent of inconsistency, a violation of the rules. And unfortunately, Mr. President, you as a liberalist, there is nothing you can do about it. I refer again before I end my submission. I quote from the chamber, the Senate leader, Senator Akpabio, that the Senate is an institution. Let me say clearly, if any of us violates the rules, the executive is not going to come here to discipline senators. And should the executive violate their own rules here, the Senate cannot go to the executive and discipline ministers. Again, should the judiciary violate their own laws, they have Nigeria Judicial Commission or agency that discipline judges. Every institution that is sacrosanct to democratic process of Nigeria have its own abiding rules and regulation. And let me say clearly that this paper also alluded to the facts that we should be conscious of the fact that the Constitution gives us our own right to regulate ourselves. It's in obedience of this regulation of our own rules that our integrity, which should be number one in the dashboard of our existence, should be upheld. And I want to appeal to my colleagues that our integrity supersedes whatever we have in life. Once a man compromises integrity, what he doesn't have integrity is left with nothing. In fact, the best is to commit suicide and die. If you don't have name, you don't have honor, what are you doing in this world? So it's on this note, I appreciate you, Mr. President, being a liberalist. You want cooperation, you want collaboration, but the distillment of our rules to the hearing of every senator is very key. And should you go to your liberalism and begin to do cooperation and collaboration in these chambers, then there will be complete breakdown of orders. And of course, in a society where there are no rules and orders, I think it's an animalistic society. You are the hegemon here by law, and you have to obey the rules and regulation and ensure there is compliance. And I want to thank the leadership of the Senate for standing, in full force of the fact that the Senate is an institution. Based on these submissions, I'm in intendium with all that is said in this paper. And there is even a provision here that if you apologize, you can just come back to the Senate even tomorrow. You just have to do a written apology. So what you can see, justice being mitigated with liberalism, simplicity again. So the rule didn't even provide for apology, but again, the magnanimous nature of the committee is that if you just write a written apology, not to the minister, not to the Senate President, but to the Senate as an institution, tomorrow morning you have your rights restored. I so support that we abide completely with the content of this paper minus nothing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, yesterday I felt so bad that an allegation of such magnitude was raised against you in the presence of our international visitors. I felt very bad, and I put myself in your shoes that if I was the one, what would my family say? Only God knows what the international visitors will have as their opinion. Mr. President, I want to first of all support the position of Senator Dandusi that recommendation 2 should not be included in these prayers. You don't give an avenue to somebody who is recalcitrant. You can only give avenue for somebody who is willing. If somebody is willing, even today, what we saw this morning about another petition on the same issue should not have come up. Mr. President, it is always a pleasure when I come into this chamber and I see people like Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, a 1999 governor, Senator Goje, 1999 senator, 1999 minister and two-term governor. I always feel very happy shaking hands with the likes of Senator Lawal, and I put myself as being a very lucky person if I stand and I shake hands with even the distinguished Senate President. I know where I was in 2007 when you became a governor in this state, in this country, and I know it is not for mere guys, mere people that can become governor in your state. In terms of age, Mr. Senate President, I felt so bad that on that fateful day, Senator Natasha can speak to you the way and manner. Senator Natasha cannot be my sister, my junior sister, because I'm 15 years older than her, and my mother does not have anybody that is 45 in age. For her to point at you and speak the way she spoke to a number 3 man in this country is an affront. In my village, nobody will accept that. So for anybody to now put this option number 2, that if somebody, it is not supposed to be, it is supposed to come from her willingly, I want to apologize. That's a different thing entirely. Mr. Senate President, when we get to prayers, we are going to vote on all these prayers. For me, I want to also end this by coming to you, Mr. Senate President, even if you are not there. I want to lead you to the book of Isaiah 54, verse 17. The book of Isaiah 54, verse 17. And it says, and I say to you, Mr. Senate President, that no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. Senator Akpabio, no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. And every tongue, Senator Akpabio, that rise up against you in judgment shall be condemned. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and the vindication for me, says the Lord. Sorry, my Muslim brothers, that I don't have a Quran. Mr. Senate President, you are a nice man. You are a good man. Senator Etikindibe said something that Senator Natasha benefited greatly from you, very greatly. And Senator Federansi just said something. You don't have friends. Because if Senator Natasha and the husband can do what they have done to you, then who are your true friends? When this issue happened, I asked Senator Natasha, is there a problem between the SP and your husband? She denied. And I was wondering, when the senator came here, he extended a lot of courtesies to her and the husband. Several occasions that we have attended, Mr. Senate President, we create seats for the husband in the midst of senators when he is not one. That shows we respect your friend. And most times when I see you, I always see you in the same car with the husband. If a friend can treat you this way, can an enemy treat you better or worse than that? Mr. Senate President, you are a kind man. You are a kind man. You are a kind man. And I pray that your kindness will speak for you always. Thank you, Mr. Senate President, and distinguished colleagues.
My name is Asuko Ekpeyong, Senator representing Cross River South. I rise to adopt and to state that the report, as read by the chairman of the Senate Committees on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, is a true and fair view and representation of what occurred here in these chambers on the 20th of February 2025. Distinguished colleagues, I was present, as were many of you, on the 20th of February when this issue arose. I watched from my vantage position here, the screaming, the shouting, the speaking, even without recognition, in front of an audience. Young school children sat up there from the gallery watching this display. Distinguished colleagues, this Senate chambers is a citadel of democracy. In these chambers hearing represents 109 men and women who are a representation of the different ethnic groups, the different tribes, religions, and faiths of this country. It is expected that there will be differences of opinions. But this Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended is a Bible or Quran, if you will, a guide, a North Star for this Senate, such that there will be structured debate, there will be dialogue, and we will come to consensus building. And the majority will have their opinion heard, such that we can move this nation forward. Without these rules, without these guides, like the Chief Whip said, we may remain as animals. Every association, every institution has its rules. We cannot pick which one we will defend, or which one we will choose to adopt, or which one we will choose to follow and ignore the others. What occurred here was a flagrant disregard or maybe a misunderstanding of these rules. Your Excellency, these rules assures that this Senate is stronger as a whole than the sum total of our parts. I stand by the prayers that this committee's report states, and I say that please, there is little or no need to continue to debate this. Let us get into the action of the day. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. What I want to say is merely reinforcing the report of the committee as well as the submissions made by the immediate past speaker. Mr. President, as I earlier alluded to, it is by virtue of Section 60 of the 1999 Constitution that gave us the power to regulate ourselves that we gave these rules to ourselves in order to regulate our proceedings. It is only in kingdom of animals there are no regulations to guide behavior. But as an institution, pursuant to Section 60, we gave these rules in order to guide our proceedings and insulate the Senate from a scenario whereby there will be an invitation to chaos and anarchy as a result of absence of rules and regulations guiding our procedure. Again, as I said earlier on, and clearly also stated in the report, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. You cannot at one end seek to take refuge under certain provisions of the rules and in another arm seek to violate it. That will tantamount to appropriating and reprobating or picking and choose, which is frowned at by our courts. So, Mr. President, distinguished senators, this institution would outlive all of us by the grace of God. So long as there is democracy, this institution is the replica of the representative will of the Nigerian people. And as such, we should always be seen to be not only protecting, jealously guarding and protecting our rules, but should be seen manifestly to be guiding and protecting our rules. And I also urge my colleagues, distinguished senators, to always at the alleged time study our rules very well so that their conduct and behavior would always be in consonance with the provisions of our rules, because equity aids the vigilant but not the indolent. So, Mr. President, distinguished senators, on that note, I fully associate myself with all the submissions of the committee, and I adopt same as mine. Thank you.
Mr. President, for this opportunity that you have given to me to make a few remarks about what is on the table before all of us. Distinguished colleagues, I know how senators are feeling, have been feeling about the subject of discussion today. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am sure that all of us are very well aware of the efforts that were made to avoid today. And so I want to say, on behalf of myself and my colleagues on this side of the aisle, that we feel very sad that this thing is coming from this side. I would have loved that it is coming from this side. Mr. President, I want to say without any fear of contradiction, it is very, very unfortunate that it has come this way. Like I said, all efforts were made to avoid what is happening today. We are members of the minority on this side, but we are also senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And we have our rules. And as chronologically put together here, there is no doubt that there has been a breach of our rules. And breaches of rules and laws definitely come with consequences. These are the consequences that have been put very clearly here, that ordinarily would have been avoided. Mr. President, we are not against the report. But Mr. President, I want to remind all of us that we are all Nigerians. And as Nigerians, we have the tradition encapsulated in the sage that if you beat your child with the right hand, you draw that child with the left hand. We therefore say that this Senate is aware that even in our homes, we have very recalcitrant children. We don't drive these children away from the house, so we keep begging them to be of good behavior. Sometimes we beat them too. And so today we are faced with this situation that we all know impinges on the integrity of this institution, that is ordinarily the highest lawmaking institution in Nigeria. And so the expectation of many Nigerians is that we must demonstrate the highest level of integrity. And it starts with obeying our rules. Having said that, Mr. President, from this side of the aisle, we want to plead that while implementing these recommendations that will be approved by the Senate, or is most likely to be approved by the Senate, if it is convenient for the Senate and Mr. President, now that even the committee has given a window of possible mitigation of this sentence, we want to ask if it is convenient for the Senate and Mr. President that the 6 months punishment for suspension be reduced to 3 months. I say this with all with all sense of responsibility, but I think that with what has been canvassed here and the unanimity of senators on the gravity of these incidents, on the integrity of this institution, that 3 months is sufficient for some level of restitution, that 3 months will be enough for our sister and us here to reflect, to circumspect, and agree with the generality of opinion here. One person or 2 persons or even a group of persons cannot be bigger than the generality of the Senate here. And even as we rose from our meeting yesterday, to avoid this moment, we had raised the subcommittee to interface with the relevant persons in this impasse. Unfortunately, we have not been able to actualize our desires until today. And so, Mr. President, on behalf of myself and my colleagues here, we just pray that this type of ugly circumstance will not rear its head again. And going forward, having admitted that we are one family in this Senate before, that we will continue to remain the one family that we have adopted for ourselves in the past, believing that Nigerians are looking up to us for laws and checks that bring succor to the ordinary Nigerian. I think that, as unfortunate as it is, this distraction is avoidable. And after today, Mr. President, I hope very sincerely that all of us will put hands together to ensure that we abide by the rules of the Senate, that we conform ourselves and focus ourselves very, very sensibly on the reasons why we are here, to make laws for this country, to attract benefits to our constituencies, and ensure that Nigerians benefit from good governance. Mr. President, I thank you for this opportunity.
Matter is very important for us to look at it with all sense of responsibility, because this institution is an institution that must be respected and appreciated in terms of making law and in terms of following due process. And if you look at the public discourse on this very important issue, and if you look at the type of stereotype of form of perception and the negative and the unfortunate situation this distinguished Senator Natasha, after all the appeal made by her prominent senators from her state, she continued to go to the court and continued to go to the public instead of her to refer to the Committee on Ethics and Privilege. I think if we are not enforcing our constitutional responsibilities, I urge this Senate to expunge the second recommendation for that the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or reducing the tenure of suspension of Senator Natasha if she submit a written apology to the Senate before the reconsideration by the Senate, because she has the leverage to do what is needful as a matured and responsible woman. But despite that appeal by my neighbor, she went and destroyed the names of prominent leaders of this institution. So I'm against the lifting of any or reducing any suspension less than 6 months, which was recommended by the committee. And at the same time, if we are not imposing our laws into those that breach the law, so that means our coming here is meaningless. Because if you look at all of us here, we have the mandate of Nigerians, and we go through vigorous campaign to come here, and all the bodies of Nigerians are under us. We are under serious pressure, and all of us, if you look at us, we are under serious stress and under serious pressure by different people on this very important matter. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the 10th Assembly, how many people died because of the pressure of the people. And this negative and stereotype form of perception, which was created by disgruntled elements, because of their selfish and myopic thinking, will allow them to be continued to come into this red chamber. Mr. President, and respected colleagues, with due respect and sense of humility, generosity is being encouraged in all religion, whether Islam or Christianity. But law must be enforced on anybody. That is why Nigeria, we are having a lot of problems. If we are not enforcing law on lawmakers that break the law by creating stereotype and negative perception against all of us, that means we are nowhere to be found independently. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, prominent state and prominent individuals that are here, all of them are under serious discourse. I saw His Excellency, the former governor of United States in Arise. I saw him in channels defending this institution, this sanctity of this institution. We cannot allow ourselves to be put under serious stress. We have a lot of things. Under this assembly, we are trying to solve most of the existence problems we have inherited since independence, because we are trying to put things in a very perspective manner. So, Mr. President and my respected colleagues, I am against lifting this, but we have done it in 7th Assembly when House of Reps member from Kano State, Abdul Mumin Jibril, went against the institution, but we refuse to lift it. That is why he become under a serious control and respect for the institution. And all Nigerians, all eyes are on us. Because if we allow this thing, that after abusing you, Mr. President, after holding all the positions in this country, you are deserved to be respected as a father and putting your family under serious stress. So, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, even if there is any allegations, you need to put head as you have helped this woman, you have helped her to be in a position. So I think it is unhealthy. We should allow ourselves to be misused by appealing from the minority leader to make this institution bastardized. Thank you, Mr. President.